On the distant alien world of Karos Prime, silence was not peaceful, it was fearful. Every mountain, every city tower, and every open plain existed under the shadow of a single being known across the planet as the Guardian. It was not a myth, not a legend from old stories. It was real, alive, and terrifying. The Guardian stood taller than any structure built by alien hands, its massive body covered in dark living armor that pulsed faintly with energy. Its glowing eyes watched everything. And no one, absolutely no one, had ever tamed it. For generations, the people of Karos Prime believed the Guardian was both their protector and their punishment. It defended the planet from outside threats, yet it demanded distance, obedience, and fear. Entire cities were designed around keeping far away from its resting grounds. Children were taught its name before they learned their own history. Approaching the Guardian was forbidden by law, culture, and survival instinct. Those who tried never returned. Among the many who studied the Guardian from a safe distance was Lyrith, a young alien scientist with curious eyes and a restless mind. She had spent years observing the creature through scans, drones, and ancient records. Everything about the Guardian suggested absolute dominance. Its strength exceeded any known weapon. Its intelligence was impossible to measure. Most believed it did not think as lesser beings did. It simply judged, and when it judged someone unworthy, destruction followed. Lyrith knew the stories well. She had read the reports of past attempts to control the Guardian. Advanced machines had failed. Psychic interfaces had shattered minds. Entire research teams had vanished in seconds. The conclusion was always the same. The Guardian could not be reasoned with. It could not be commanded. It could not be approached. It was untouchable. That belief had never been challenged. Until the humans arrived. Humans were new to Karos Prime. They were guests, observers, a small delegation sent to study trade routes and diplomatic possibilities. Compared to the towering alien species of the planet, humans looked fragile, smaller, slower, unremarkable. Many locals wondered why such a weak species had survived long enough to travel the stars at all. Lyrith had shared that doubt, at least at first. The day everything changed began like any other. Warning sirens echoed softly across the research sector as the Guardian shifted in its resting zone, a normal and expected movement. Lyrith watched from the observation platform, recording energy fluctuations when she noticed something unusual. A lone figure had crossed the outer boundary. A human. He walked alone across the open ground. No weapons visible, no protective shield activated. His steps were slow, steady, deliberate. The alarms grew louder as security forces scrambled in panic. Voices shouted through communication channels, demanding the human retreat immediately. Lyrith's breath caught as she focused her lens on him. He did not stop, the Guardian noticed. The massive creature rose, the ground trembling beneath its weight. Its eyes burned brighter as it turned toward the approaching human. This was the moment Lyrith had seen replayed in countless recordings. The moment before death. She expected fire, energy waves, instant annihilation. Her hands shook as she whispered, almost to herself, that the human would not survive. But the human did something no one had ever done. He stopped. Not at the safe distance. Not at the boundary. He stopped well within the Guardian's territory. Slowly, carefully, he lowered himself to one knee. Not in fear, but in respect. He made no sudden movements. He did not raise his voice. He simply waited. The Guardian let out a roar that shook the sky. Dust and energy surged outward. Security teams prepared for impact. Lyrith squeezed her eyes shut, certain she was witnessing a death. When she opened them, the human was still there, unharmed, standing now calmly, looking up at the towering Guardian without fear or challenge. The Guardian leaned closer, its massive head lowering until its glowing eyes were only meters away from the human. The air between them vibrated with power. Lyrith felt her world tilt. This was wrong. This was impossible. The Guardian had destroyed fleets for less. And yet, it hesitated. The human spoke, his voice too low for the instruments to clearly record. But his posture was unmistakable. Calm, confident, unafraid. For the first time in recorded history, the untouchable Guardian did not attack, and as Lyrith watched in stunned silence, she realized she was witnessing the beginning of something that would change not only her planet, but the galaxy itself. The Guardian did not strike. That single moment felt unreal to everyone watching. The massive creature stood frozen, its glowing eyes locked on the small human before it. No alarms could explain this. No data could justify it. For the first time in history, the Guardian hesitated. Lyrith stared at the scene from the observation platform, unable to move. Her training told her this was impossible. Her instincts told her this was dangerous. Yet what she saw did not match fear or chaos. The human stood calmly with open hands and steady breath. He did not act like prey. He did not act like a warrior. He acted like someone who belonged. The Guardian lowered its massive head slowly. Each movement carried enough force to destroy building security. Forces prepared for the worst. Many turned away expecting violence. Lyrith forced herself to keep watching. Her heart raced as ancient instincts screamed danger. The human spoke again. His voice was soft, not commanding, not aggressive. It was the voice of reassurance, of understanding. The Guardian released a deep rumbling sound that echoed across the land, but it was not rage. It was confusion. Alien scholars had long believed the Guardian responded only to power, that it respected strength, dominance. Yet the human showed none of that. No weapons, no armor, no technology beyond basic survival gear. Lyrith realized something unsettling. The human was not trying to control the Guardian. He was trying to communicate. The Guardian stepped closer. The ground trembled beneath its weight. Every step could have been fatal. But the human did not move back. He adjusted his stance slowly, carefully. His eyes remained focused but gentle. A shockwave of disbelief spread through the command center. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Some demanded immediate intervention. Others were too stunned to speak. No one had ever seen the Guardian behave this way. Then the impossible happened. The Guardian lowered its massive body, not fully but enough to bring its head closer to the human. This gesture had never been recorded, never even imagined. Lyrith felt her breath catch. Her people believed the Guardian bowed to no one. The human raised one hand slowly. He waited. The Guardian did not react violently. Instead, it leaned closer. Its glowing eyes dimmed slightly. The energy surrounding it stabilized. Lyrith felt a chill run through her. This was not submission through fear. This was trust. Data screens began flashing abnormal readings. The Guardian neural patterns were changing. Not aggressive, not defensive, calm, balanced. The human placed his hand against the Guardian's surface. A touch that should have ended his life instantly. Instead, nothing happened. No explosion, no attack, only silence. Across the planet, people watched in disbelief. Broadcasts spread the image everywhere. Cities froze, governments panicked. Religious leaders questioned centuries of belief. Lyrith understood then why humans were different. They did not rely only on strength. They relied on connection. The Guardian released another deep sound. This time it resembled relief. Its massive form relaxed. The tension in the air faded. Security teams lowered their weapons. No one dared move. They were witnessing history rewrite itself. The human stepped back slowly, not as someone retreating, but as someone giving space. The Guardian did not follow. It remained calm, watching him. Lyrith felt something break inside her. Everything she believed about power was wrong. Everything her people taught about control was incomplete. The Guardian had not been tamed by force. It had been reached. As the human turned away, the Guardian did something that sent shock through every observer. It bowed its head, not fully, not dramatically, but enough. Lyrith knew then that the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. And this was only the beginning. The moment the Guardian bowed, the silence did not last. It exploded into fear, confusion, and disbelief across Karos Prime. Screens lit up in every city. People stopped moving. Vehicles froze in the air, markets went quiet, the image of the Guardian, lowering its head to a human, spread faster than any warning ever had. Lyrith stood frozen as well. Her mind struggled to accept what her eyes had seen. This was not a trick. This was not a malfunction. The Guardian had made a choice, and that choice terrified her people. Within minutes, the High Council issued an emergency summons. Ancient protocols were activated, ones that had never been used. The Guardian was no longer just a protector. It was now a risk. Council members gathered in towering chambers carved from crystal and stone. Their voices echoed with anger and fear. Some demanded the human be removed immediately. Others called for the Guardian to be destroyed. A few remained silent, unable to process the truth. Lyrith was summoned. As a witness, she walked into the chamber, aware that history was pressing down on her shoulders. She described everything she had seen. The calm posture, the lack of weapons, the moment of contact. Her words only deepened the tension. The council did not see understanding. They saw loss of control. Humans had been guests. Now they were a threat. Orders were issued. The human was to be taken into custody, not harmed, but contained. The Guardian was to be isolated and restrained using every known measure. Lyrith felt dread tighten her chest. She knew restraint had never worked before. And yet her people refused to learn. Security forces moved quickly. Armored units surrounded the human compound. Drones filled the sky. Energy fields activated. The human stood outside waiting, as if he already knew. He did not resist. He did not argue. He simply followed. Lyrith watched from a distance, feeling something she could not name. Guilt, curiosity, fear, perhaps all of them. As the human was escorted away, the ground trembled again. The Guardian stirred. Energy readings spiked across the planet. The Guardian rose from its resting place. Its eyes burned brighter than before, not with rage, but with awareness. The restraint fields activated. Massive towers released waves of binding energy. Chains of light wrapped around the Guardian body. For a brief moment, the council believed they had succeeded. Then the Guardian roared. The sound tore through cities and skies. Energy systems failed. Shields cracked. The binding fields shattered like glass. The Guardian stood free. Panic spread faster than before. Evacuation orders failed. Communication collapsed. The council chamber fell silent. Lyrith realized the truth before the others. The Guardian was not reacting to restraint. It was reacting to separation. The human was being taken away. The Guardian moved, not toward the cities, not toward the council, but toward the direction the human had gone. Every defense line failed, not because the Guardian attacked, but because nothing dared stop it. Lyrith ran. She ignored orders, ignored fear. She followed the Guardian path, knowing instinctively where it would go. At the holding facility, the human sat calmly inside an energy cell. Guards watched nervously. Sensors screamed warnings. Then the lights dimmed. The Guardian arrived. It did not attack. It did not roar. It simply stood there waiting. The human stood as well. He raised his hand slowly, the same calm movement, the same steady presence. The Guardian relaxed. Outside the facility, leaders watched in silence. Understanding began to replace fear. Slowly, painfully, the Guardian was not owned, not controlled, not programmed. It had chosen. Lyrith felt her worldview collapse and rebuild in the same moment. This was no invasion, no domination. This was something far more dangerous. Humanity had reached what no civilization ever had. Not the Guardian's strength, but its trust, and the galaxy was only just beginning to notice. The chamber of judgment was vast, and cold, tall crystal walls reflected light like silent witnesses. Alien leaders filled the seats, rising in layers above the central floor. Every eye was fixed on the lone human standing below. He stood without restraints, without fear. His posture was relaxed yet alert, as if this was not a trial that could decide his fate, but a conversation he was willing to have. Lyrith stood among the observers. Her thoughts raced. She had seen the Guardian choose the human, but choice was something her people did not trust. They trusted systems, rules, and control. The High Speaker rose. His voice echoed through the chamber. He spoke of danger, of ancient warnings, of the Guardian being created as a final defense, a living weapon meant to destroy any species that threatened Kairos Prime. He revealed a truth hidden for generations. The Guardian was designed to turn on humans if they ever became a threat. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. The chamber reacted with shock. Lirith felt cold. The Guardian was never meant to protect humans. It was meant to end them. The human listened calmly. He did not interrupt. He did not defend himself. He waited. When allowed to speak, he stepped forward slowly. He spoke of understanding, of listening, of respect. He explained that humans did not see strength as domination. They saw it as balance. He said the Guardian was not broken. It was lonely. The words unsettled the council. Lonely was not a concept applied to weapons or gods. Lirith felt something shift. The human was not denying the danger. He was explaining it. Outside the chamber, alarms began to rise low at first. Then louder. Sensors detected movement at the edge of the system. An enemy fleet, an ancient rival of Kairos Prime, had arrived, drawn by the energy surge, drawn by weakness. The council panicked. Defensive protocols activated, but fear spread quickly. Their greatest weapon was unstable, and their fleets were unprepared. The Guardian stirred again. Its presence was felt across the planet. Energy patterns spiked, but it did not rage. It waited. The human turned toward the chamber entrance, as if he sensed what was coming. He spoke again calmly. He said the Guardian would fight, but not for orders, only for choice. The council hesitated. Time was running out. The enemy fleet crossed into attack range cities, prepared for impact. Lirith realized the truth before the others. The Guardian would not defend them unless the human was free. The High Speaker made a decision. The human was released, not as a prisoner, but as an ally. As the human stepped outside the chamber, the sky darkened. Enemy ships filled the horizon, weapons charged. The Guardian moved to the human side, not behind, not above. Beside Lirith, watched as history bent. Again, this was no longer about control. This was about trust under fire. The enemy fleet fired the first strike, and the battle for the future of the galaxy began.
The sky above Kairos Prime burned with light as enemy ships descended like a moving storm, and the people of the planet watched in silent fear while their defenses prepared for a battle they believed they could not win. The Guardian stood at the center of the open plains, its massive form glowing with rising energy, yet it did not move in anger or confusion. It waited, and beside it stood the human, calm, steady, and focused as if chaos did not exist around him. Lirith observed from a high platform, her thoughts racing as she realized the Guardian was no longer responding to alarms, commands, or threats. It was responding only to the presence of the human. The first enemy strike tore through the atmosphere, and energy waves slammed into planetary shields, causing cities to tremble and skies to fracture. With light, panic spread, but the human did not react with fear. He stepped forward slowly, raising one hand not to command but to signal. The Guardian responded instantly, releasing a deep, powerful sound that echoed across the land, and for the first time in its long existence it moved with purpose, chosen, not imposed. The Guardian advanced toward the enemy fire, not recklessly but with precision, deflecting attacks with controlled bursts of energy that stunned both enemy and allies alike. Lirith saw something impossible unfolding. The Guardian was not acting like a weapon, it was acting like a protector, guided by intent. The enemy fleet adjusted tactics, launching concentrated fire meant to overwhelm. But the Guardian adapted, moving faster, shielding key regions, and striking only when necessary. Each movement was measured, each action deliberate, and the human remained close, never shouting, never directing, only present, and somehow that was enough. The alien commanders watched in disbelief as centuries of fear collapsed in real time. Their strongest defenses had failed before, yet now the planet stood because a human had earned trust rather than demanded obedience. The enemy ships began to fall one by one, not destroyed by rage, but disabled with efficiency, as if the Guardian understood restraint. The battlefield shifted as morale rose across Kairos Prime, and fear slowly turned into hope. Lirith felt tears form as she understood this was not victory through dominance, but through harmony. The Guardian fought not because it was ordered, but because it chose to defend what it now understood. The human moved through the chaos, helping injured civilians, guiding evacuation routes, and standing unprotected Beneath burning skies, yet never once was he harmed. The Guardian shielded him, instinctively reacting faster than any system could calculate. As the final enemy ship retreated into the darkness of space, silence returned slowly across the planet. The skies cleared, the energy settled, and the Guardian stood tall, no longer feared but respected. Lirith knew this moment would be remembered forever. Humanity had not conquered Karos Prime. Humanity had changed it, and as the human looked up at the Guardian, there was no triumph in his eyes, only understanding, and that understanding had saved a world. After the battle, the planet of Karos Prime felt unfamiliar. Not because it was damaged, but because it was changed. The skies were calm again. Cities stood silent as people stepped outside, unsure of what came next. For the first time in their history, the Guardian remained awake yet peaceful. It did not return to its resting zone. It stayed near the human. Lirith walked through the recovery zones, observing everything. The fear she had grown up with was gone. In its place was confusion, curiosity, and something close to hope. People no longer whispered the Guardian name with terror. They spoke it with respect. The High Council reconvened. But this time their voices were quieter, less certain. They reviewed the battle data. The Guardian had not used its full destructive capacity. It had chosen restraint, a concept foreign to a being designed as a final weapon. Lirith was asked to speak again. She explained what she now understood. The Guardian responded to intention, not authority. It recognized empathy, not fear. The human was invited to stand before the council, not as a prisoner, not even as a suspect, but as a guest. He spoke simply. He said humans survived not because they were strongest, but because they adapted. They listened. They learned. They bonded. He explained that on his world humans had once feared their own monsters, until they learned to understand them, care for them, respect them. The Guardian listened. Its massive form lowered slightly as if acknowledging the words. Council members watched in silence, some with awe, some with fear. Lirith realized the truth fully then. The Guardian was not bound to the human by control. It was bound by choice. A decision was made. The Guardian would no longer be isolated. It would remain as a living protector guided by mutual trust. And the human would not stay. The human prepared to leave Karos Prime. His mission was complete. He had not come to rule, or to claim, only to connect. As his ship was prepared, the Guardian followed him to the spaceport. Citizens gathered, watching from a distance. No alarms sounded. No weapons were raised. Lirith stood close enough to see the final moment. The human placed his hand against the Guardian once more, a gesture now understood as respect. The Guardian responded by lowering its head fully. Not in submission, but in farewell. Energy rippled softly through the air. Not destructive. Not threatening. Peaceful. The human boarded his ship. As it lifted into the sky, the Guardian watched until it vanished among the stars. Lirith felt a strange ache. Something precious had passed through their world, and left it forever changed. The Guardian returned to its watch. But it was no longer alone. It was aware. Connected. Across the planet, beliefs were rewritten. Humans were no longer seen as weak or dangerous. They were seen as something far more powerful. They understood what others tried to dominate, and that understanding had reshaped the future. Time passed on Karos Prime, but nothing ever truly returned to how it was before. The planet continued to rotate beneath its calm skies, yet every being felt the difference. The Guardian still stood watch over the world, but it no longer inspired fear. Its presence was steady, familiar, almost comforting. Lirith often visited the observation planes where everything had begun. She remembered the silence, the tension, and the moment belief had shattered. Now she stood there watching the Guardian interact peacefully with the land. It responded to storms by calming them. It redirected seismic shifts. It protected without destruction. The High Council changed slowly but permanently. Old laws built on fear were rewritten. New teachings replaced ancient warnings. Children were no longer told stories of punishment. They were taught stories of choice. Humans became a topic of endless discussion. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as a mystery that challenged every known assumption. Lirith dedicated her life to studying what she called human influence. She did not study weapons or technology. She studied behavior, empathy, connection, trust. She shared her findings across the galaxy. Many dismissed her. Some mocked her. A few listened. Those who listened began to change. Trade routes opened. Conflicts cooled. Diplomacy shifted. The idea that power could exist without domination spread slowly but deeply. The Guardian became a symbol. Not of fear, but of restraint. Other worlds sent observers. They expected a monster. They found a protector. Lirith often thought about the human. His calm voice. His steady presence. The way he never claimed credit. She realized humans did not seek statues or worship. They left something far more dangerous behind. An example. Years later, a signal arrived from distant space. A simple transmission. Human origin. It carried no demands. No warnings. Only a message of greeting. The Guardian reacted instantly. Not with aggression, but recognition. Energy patterns shifted gently. As if it remembered. Lirith watched in silence as the Guardian lifted its head toward the stars. She understood then that the bond had not ended. Distance had not broken it. Humanity had touched something ancient. And that touch echoed. Across the galaxy, species began to question their own guardians. Their own weapons. Their own fears. Some failed. Some resisted. Some learned. But the idea could not be erased. Power without empathy was no longer enough. Lirith recorded her final report years later. She ended it with a truth she believed with certainty. Humanity did not rule the stars. They did not need to. They changed how the stars were ruled. And somewhere among the endless dark, a human ship continued its journey, unaware that its greatest legacy was not conquest, but understanding.